So we're going to continue our work, and we're going to continue how to calculate the time difference between two or more countries. Example 1. The countries below shows the number of hours placed ahead or behind the Greenwich time, and ahead is represented by a plus sign and behind is represented by a negative sign or minus sign. Canada -5 or 5 hours behind, Guyana -3 or 3 hours behind, Delhi positive 5.5 or 5.5 hours ahead of the Greenwich time. Using the 24-hour clock, calculates the local time in the above country when the time in London is 4 p.m. So we have to make note of the relevant information here. You have to make note of what they're asking us to do and the information that they give us. They give us 3 countries and they state whether the country is behind or ahead of the Greenwich time. They give us our base country. Our base country is London. So we're using London as our base country, and the time in London is 4 p.m. And so that means whatever time in Delhi is, or in Canada, is 5 hours behind the time in London. Guyana is 3 hours behind whatever time it's in London, and Delhi is 5.5 hours ahead of whatever time is in London. And they want us to change the answer into 24 hours clock. So let's go with Canada first, which is 5 hours behind our -5. The first thing we have to do, the time in London is 4 p.m. Then we have to convert 4 p.m. to 24 hours clock, or the 24-hour format. And 4 p.m. in the 12-hour, when we convert it to the 24-hour, we have 1600 hours. It's 1600 hours in London in the 24-hour format. Then we minus 5 from 1600, 5 hours from 1600 hours, because Canada is 5 hours behind the time in London, and we get 1100 hours. So when it's 1600 hours in London, it's 1100 hours in Canada. Let's move on. Guyana is 3 hours behind the time in London. The time in London is 4 p.m. We have to convert the 4 p.m. to 24 hours because they ask us to do that. And when we convert it, we have 1600 hours. Because the Guyana is 3 hours behind the time in London, we have to minus the time. And we have to minus 3 hours from 1600 hours. So when it's 1600 hours in London, the time in Guyana will be 1300 hours or 1 p.m. But they want the answer in 24 hours clock, so we have to keep it as 1300 hour. Let's move on. The time in Delhi is 5.5 hours ahead of the time in London. So the time in London is 4 p.m. We have to convert it to 24-hour clock or format, and we have 1600 hours in London. And since Delhi is 5.5 hours ahead of the time in London, we have to add. We don't have to subtract. Once it's a positive, we have to add it. And when we add 5.5 hours to 1600 hours, the time in Delhi is 2130 hours, 2130 minutes in Delhi. It's very simple, so I want you guys to go it over again, practice it, and we're going to go into the next set of examples, which are a bit harder in the next video.